What are the signs that either childhood trauma or childhood challenges are still influencing your life today or controlling your adult life? And if they are, what do we do about it? So here's some questions for you to consider. Do you overthink constantly? Do you struggle with people pleasing? Fear rejection or abandonment? Do you shut down emotionally during conflict? Do you feel responsible for everybody else's emotions? Do you attract unhealthy relationships? Do you struggle to relax, to trust, or to just feel safe? Do you feel anxious even when nothing is actually wrong? Or do you feel not good enough no matter how much you achieve? Now, if you answer yes to any of those things, or your clients might answer yes to any of those things, you maybe have told yourself the following: this is just my personality, this is just who I am, or I should be over this by now. So you may notice that these are things that you would say to yourself to help you justify or understand why you do what you do. But what if these patterns are not actually character flaws? They're just adaptations. They're just adapting to our environment, adapting to our experiences. And what if parts of your adult life are still being shaped by your childhood experience that you never fully either understood or healed from or got a chance to become conscious of enough that you may want to make a shift? So today on the Holistic Therapy Revolution, we are going to be talking about signs that trauma or challenges in your childhood may still be controlling your adult life, and how trauma or challenges can impact the nervous system, our beliefs, our emotions, our relationships, and our behaviors, and why responses, trauma responses, or adaptations to our environment often become personality traits. And then also how holistic trauma healing can help you to understand some of these traits and then finally move beyond either survival mode or the adaptations that are no longer serving you now. So welcome back to the Holistic Therapy Revolution. I am Beth Miller. I have been a holistic therapist for over 25 years. I'm also the creator of the Advanced Holistic Counseling and Coaching Model. And in addition to working directly with clients and running a group practice, I also train therapists and healers and coaches and doctors in the model that I created because it's an integration of the most powerful tools that are found in psychotherapy and counseling with the most powerful and effective holistic modalities paired together so that clients have the best whole healing experience. And if you're interested in learning more about that, you can check out the link below. So let's talk about what childhood trauma is. This is a word that gets bandied around a lot, and I fear that we're overusing the word trauma. So I'm going to make a couple of distinctions as we go along the way here. So when people hear the word trauma, they often think about extreme events, and I do too. My first 10 years in the field of psychotherapy was focused exclusively on severe trauma. So I do have a strong association with the idea of trauma being things like sexual abuse, war, severe car accidents, very impactful medical diagnoses, neglect, poverty, systemic racism, sexual assault, violence, addiction in the home, major instability, parents that are mentally ill, etc. But childhood trauma or challenges can also come from chronic emotional experiences, like feeling unsafe, feeling emotionally abandoned, never feeling good enough, constant criticism, unpredictable caregivers, emotional invalidation, parentification, walking on eggshells, feeling unseen or emotionally alone. So trauma or challenges like that can be viewed through the lens of it's not just what happened, it's also what didn't happen. right? Sometimes there wasn't an overt experience of abuse, but there was invalidation and neglect, and where the child felt invisible the majority of the time. We don't have to call that trauma, and clients have different comfort levels with calling things trauma. We probably shouldn't overuse the term trauma, and we shouldn't underuse it. We should maximize it. We should minimize it. Instead, we should use language that feels like it fits correctly for what we experienced. So you might say, I wouldn't call that trauma, but I would call that a constant challenge that I experienced and that I ended up adapting to that is still affecting my life today. And so clients may need to decide what's really comfortable for them when it comes to language, because the word trauma has been expanded out to include so many different types of challenges. And frankly, most people have had a lot of challenges in their life. Most people did not have a picture perfect life growing up. So if you or your client did not receive emotional safety or attunement or protection or comfort or healthy boundaries or emotion regulation modeling or consistent love, that might actually qualify for most people's childhoods to some degree. But those things do deeply shape us, and it's our opportunity and responsibility as we get older to decide what we want to reshape for ourselves now that we're becoming more conscious of what our experiences have been and also what we would like to experience in our lives. So childhood trauma and challenges often become adult patterning. Children adapt to their environments, yes, to survive them, but also to just be able to adapt and experience them. That is part of being a resilient human being, is learning how to adapt to whatever is in front of us. And those adaptations do often become automatic adult patterns. For example, a child that might have had unpredictable caregivers may become hypervigilant when they're older, anxious, controlling, or perfectionistic. Or a child who was emotionally dismissed may become disconnected from their feelings, emotionally shut down, or unable to express their needs. A child who had to keep the peace at home, that became a role of theirs, may become a chronic people pleaser or conflict avoidant or overly responsible for other people. A child raised in chaos may later confuse anxiety for normalcy because they're so normalized to being in chronic chaos and anxiety. And because these responses were repeated for years, they just become neurologically wired in as part of our patterning in our brain and in our body. So here's some signs that childhood trauma or the challenges that you had may still be affecting you. 1, you may feel responsible for other people's emotions. So a lot of people had experiences growing up that caused them to become highly attuned to other people or to others' emotions because they had to monitor the moods around them in order to be able to find safety. So what does this look like? It might look like over-accommodating people, over-explaining, fear of upsetting people, feeling guilty about saying no, or absorbing other people's emotions. And this is an adaptation to an environment where the child discovered that keeping vigilance, reading the room all the time, trying to predict when things are going to go wrong, causes them to tune into the environment with so much vigilance that now they carry that forward into their life, and they're doing that in their everyday life because it just became a part of them. Here's the second sign that your childhood trauma or challenges are still impacting you today because they've shaped the way that you've experienced life. You may struggle with your emotion regulation. You may become overwhelmed easily, emotionally shut down, experience anxiety or panic, feel emotionally reactive, or have difficulty calming yourself. Trauma and the lack of being taught emotion regulation skills can dysregulate the nervous system and impair the person's ability to be able to feel safe. The brain is actually changed when we experience trauma. And we know that because we have a lot of science that has helped to prove the impact on the brain. If the brain has been impacted by trauma, then the person may not be able to have access to as much emotion regulation. They may have a harder time soothing themselves. They may escalate easily and have a very hard time coming back to a baseline or to homeostasis. So if we weren't taught emotion regulation skills when we were younger, or if we were around a lot of chaos, or if we experienced trauma, we actually may not only lack emotion regulation skills, but we also may become activated very easily and have a really hard time getting back down to baseline. Here's the third sign that your childhood trauma or experiences may still be affecting your life. You fear rejection, abandonment, or not being enough. Now, I know some of you are saying, who doesn't fear rejection, abandonment, or not being enough? But listen in. So many childhood wounds create core beliefs like, I'm not lovable, I'm too much, I'm not enough, people leave, I have to earn love. And these beliefs often operate subconsciously. We're not aware of them. We're not consciously saying, I'm not enough, so that's why I'm going to work harder on my exams right now. That's not what's happening. It becomes a subconscious drive that we have, and people are often operating subconsciously, and this ends up shaping their relationships, their career choices, their boundaries, their self-worth, and their attachment patterns. So just step back for a second and think to yourself about yourself. Do I feel not lovable? Do I feel that I'm too much? Do I worry that people leave? Do I feel like I have to earn love? And if that's the case, you may notice that impact of those beliefs, those core beliefs, in your career choices. Maybe you're a workaholic now. Maybe you feel like you always have to strive harder in order to be able to achieve the next thing. And perhaps you haven't really stepped back and asked yourself, why? Where is that drive coming from, and what is the purpose of it? Or perhaps your self-worth feels very low, so even though people think the world of you, it doesn't penetrate for you. You actually don't feel that way about yourself. And this may be because of the third sign that your childhood trauma or challenges have affected your adult life. The fourth sign is you people please or overfunction. You may constantly help other people, rescue people, overwork, overachieve, or avoid disappointing people. And underneath that, there might be a fear of rejection, a fear of conflict, a fear of losing connection. The fifth sign that your childhood trauma or challenges may be something you're still experiencing in your adult life is that you might struggle to feel safe, relaxing. Many people with childhood trauma or challenges feel guilty resting, anxious when slowing down, uncomfortable doing nothing. Their nervous system becomes conditioned for vigilance, for scanning, for anticipating problems, and for always needing to be moving or always needing to be active. Calm may actually feel unfamiliar, unsafe. It may feel awkward. It may feel like laziness. It may feel like procrastination. It may feel unearned or unwarranted. The sixth sign that your childhood trauma or challenges may still be affecting your adult life is that you attract or stay in unhealthy relationships. Unhealed trauma can normalize inconsistency, emotional unavailability, chaos, criticism, and instability. So sometimes people are just unconsciously recreating the familiar environments because their nervous system is confusing familiar with safe. Remember, we've got that patterning in the brain from years of conditioning that says, this is what works and this is what doesn't. This is who I am. This is who I'm not. This is my identity in relationships. This is not my identity in relationships, until we consciously challenge that. Another sign that your childhood trauma or challenges may still be shaping and affecting your adult life is if you disconnect from yourself. Trauma survivors often disconnect from emotions, bodily sensations, needs, and intuition because disconnecting may once have been a very protective and unconscious act. So this can look like numbness, brain fog, dissociation, lack of identity, difficulty knowing what you want, feeling very ungrounded, and sometimes not even being aware of it. In session, when I notice that a client is dissociating, after we reassociate them to their being and their body and get them back in the moment, very often we'll try to take stock of what dissociation has looked like in their lives. And many people will report, I think I'm dissociated a lot of the time and I just didn't realize it. So one of the things that we're doing right away is building a practice of how to be much more fully present in your being and in your body so that you can be fully present. That's where all your power is. Now, talk therapy is incredibly useful. Building insight and understanding about your experiences when you were younger can help you consciously choose new behaviors now. A big piece of what talk therapy does so well is to help you connect your experiences and your patterns and behaviors now, because as we make that link, then we can also decide, hey, is this something I want to continue? Just because this is the way I adapted when I was younger, is this still the strategy that I want to use in my relationships now? Very often the answer is partially yes and partially no. I want to keep some of these adaptations because I like those aspects of who I am, but I want to shift them a little bit, reframe them a little bit. I want to modify them to be things that are serving me and not becoming a hindrance in my life. So clients, when they're learning why they struggle, where it came from, what happened, that is incredibly useful. But they may notice that even with all that conscious insight, that they're still reacting automatically, they're still feeling triggered, they're still repeating the same patterns, they're still feeling emotionally unsafe. And the reason why is because trauma is not just a cognitive process, right? Trauma and the challenges that we've had when we were younger and the patterning that was created at the time impacts everything. So it's impacting your nervous system, your body, your subconscious beliefs, your emotion regulation, your neural patterning, and your behavioral adaptations. And this is why holistic trauma treatment and holistic therapy for all challenges is often really powerful, because we're working with the mind, the body, the nervous system, the emotions, the behaviors, the energy, our spirituality, and that brain patterning. So this might be using tools like EMDR to help the brain reprocess traumatic memories. It might be using EFT tapping to calm emotional activation and to shift limiting beliefs. It may be by using somatic therapy to release trauma that has been stored in the body. It might be using internal family systems to heal the wounded inner parts of us. It might be using breathwork and nervous system regulation to help the body move out of chronic survival states. It may be using meditation and mindfulness to increase awareness and regulation and to naturally help the brain to start actually finding more emotion regulation and natural states of calm. It might be by using visualization to create neural and emotional experiences that we not only begin to embody but live. It might be through behavioral repatterning to stop repeating survival-based strategies. And it might be through learning a lot of emotion regulation skills to build the capacity that trauma dysregulated. Because healing is not just understanding your trauma, healing is also helping the entire system feel safe enough to live differently, to thrive more, which of course is the goal. So here's something that's really important. Number one, whatever adaptations you made to your life experiences, they made sense. This is so important because many people, trauma survivors, but also just everyday average folks, they blame themselves for their coping patterns. They judge themselves. They shame themselves for the way that they cope or the way that they adapt. And your responses likely helped you survive or get by or adapt or be able to be resilient at one point in your life. Now, the goal is not shame. The goal is healing, integration, understanding, insight, and also learning these new ways of living that are no longer driven just by adaptations from the past. So instead of asking, what's wrong with me? How about, what happened to me? Or what did my nervous system learn? Or what do my behavioral patterns look like? Or what are the things that I learned when I was younger that I need to decide if I want to be a part of my world now? And those shifts can change everything. So here's something to be so aware of. Healing is always possible. Any age, any time, healing is always possible. You're not doomed to repeat the same patterns forever. The brain can change, the nervous system can heal, your new emotional experiences can be created, new choices can be made, new neural pathways can form. With the right support and the right holistic tools, relationships can improve, anxiety can decrease, emotion regulation can strengthen, self-worth can grow, the body can begin to feel safe again, but also we can then create goals and go for the things that we really want in this life because we are not just dealing with the adaptations from the past, we're consciously shaping the now and the future. If this episode resonated with you, first of all, please leave a comment, please like it. We all know that's how the algorithm works, right? But I hope it also helps you to realize that your patterns are not likely to be personality flaws. They are unresolved adaptations, maybe even survival adaptations. And the beautiful thing about that is that what was learned can also be healed or also can be changed. Now, I want to thank you so much for being here today and for all of your curiosity, learning all of the tools from traditional psychotherapy, in addition to holistic modalities and alternative modalities. And if you're a therapist, a coach, a healer, a doctor that wants to learn how to integrate the most powerful tools for transformation with your clients and patients, please check out the link below. And I look forward to seeing you at the next Holistic Therapy Revolution.